let's go on a journey together, all right? These are guys who last year I would consider your league winners. They got 4 things in common that I noticed, okay? And then we'll compile a list of running backs to target based off that information. First thing they all had in common is all 8 of those running backs. Today, I'm going to be giving you a list of over 10 running backs with unlimited upside in 2024. None of these running backs are being drafted inside the top 15 right now. And this list has been compiled from trends and data from the previous season. The ADP from today's video has been pulled from Sleeper and ESPN drafts via Fantasy Pros. All right, so 19 out of the top 60 running backs drafted last year have improved their ADP. That's 31.7%. Huge list. All right, these are guys who did very good, who improved their value last year. There are also a couple notable names to mention outside the top 60 last year who improved their ADP this year. Kyren Williams, Tajay Spears, Zamir White, Zach Moss. But when we look at this big list of running backs who did great last year, which ones can we label true league winners? And can it help us identify potential league winners at the position in 2024? Well, to find out, let's go on a journey together, all right? Let's filter our research and strictly look at running backs who improved their ADP by 8 or more spots at the position from 2023 to 2024 and are now being drafted inside the top 15 as a running back in 2024 fantasy drafts. That leaves us with a decent sample size of 8 total running backs. These are guys who last year I would consider your league winners. Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Rachaad White, James Cook, Isaiah Pacheco, Devon Achane, Kyren Williams. All very good picks in fantasy football last year, all paid off for the most part. So what can we learn from this group? What do they have in common? Because ultimately, we want to draft as many guys this year that could be in this category next year. You get where I'm coming from? Okay, so here's a couple things. They got 4 things in common that I noticed, okay? And then we'll compile a list of running backs to target based off that information. Number 1, the first thing they all had in common is all 8 of those running backs were aged 24 years or younger. On average, our league winner backs came out to around 22.9 years old. Our group, the second thing it has in common, averaged around 18.5 touches per game. And we got that by adding their rushing attempts to their total targets and dividing that by the total games that they have played. The only exception is Devon Achane, where 2 games he played less than 10% of the snaps and left with an injury. So we removed that to try and represent his true usage in the NFL last year. So if we look at touches per game, again, averaging 18.5 across the board for our league winner group. Achane and Gibbs were the only ones who averaged under 17 touches per game, but both thrived on efficiency, and that drastically helped them in fantasy football. If you look, these non-workhorse stars, Achane averaged 7.5 yards per attempt. That was number 1 amongst running backs, and Gibbs was at 5.2 yards per attempt, tied for second. Again, running backs who have at least 100 attempts. The third thing that this group had in common is 6 out of 8 running backs in the list, so 75%, 6 out of 8 running backs in this group were selected on day 2 or higher in the NFL draft, meaning at minimum 6 of these guys were drafted in round 3 or earlier of the NFL draft, okay? Our 2 outliers would be Isaiah Pacheco and Kyren Williams, who were drafted round 7 and round 5, but every single other one of these names drafted within the top 3 rounds of the NFL draft. The fourth thing these guys had in common is none of our running backs were drafted in the top 12 amongst running backs last year, okay? Otherwise, they might have been priced near their ceiling already, right? And that's what we're looking for this year. Who are guys priced outside the top 15 that could finish inside the top 12? Well, you can see where our league winners were drafted. On average of all these names, they were drafted around running back 34 and finished, and their ADP this year rather, is at running back 9. If we remove Kyren Williams, who had an outlier season, right? He wasn't even drafted in most leagues. He was a waiver wire pickup. That's going to be hard to repeat. But if we remove Kyren Williams, the average draft position of these names last year was RB24. Okay, so to recap, here's what we are looking for. This is what we've all been waiting for. These are now the running backs that we want to target in 2024 after compiling this research, all right? So to recap, here's what we're looking for. Number 1, we're looking for running backs aged at 24 years or younger. Number 2, guys who are projected to average at least 16 touches per game. The higher, the better, right? Number 3, guys who are selected day 2 or higher in the NFL draft. So rounds 1, 2, and 3 in the NFL draft. And number 4, guys who are currently being drafted outside the top 12 amongst running backs, top 15 even amongst running backs this year. Okay, so let's talk about it. I got a list of 10 plus names. Let's talk about the 2 running backs who meet all 4 of these thresholds, and 2 running backs that I personally will be targeting in every single draft. The first one's name is Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is going to be 23 years old. He's projected in my projections to see 16.4 touches per game. In the NFL draft, he was an early round 2 pick, and he currently has an ADP of RB17. We know how good Ken Walker is. I know a lot of people concerned about Zach Charbonnet, but he fits the bill for me. He's already done it in previous seasons where he's been very good. I think that offense will improve as well. And Ken Walker could be used more in the air. The second running back we're targeting based off this information is Jonathan Brooks. All right, hang in there with me. Jonathan Brooks is 21 years old. I project him to see 16.4 touches per game. We'll talk about that. In the NFL draft, he was drafted pick 14 in round 2, and he has an ADP of RB25 right now. When you look at his projected touches, I currently have only given him 50% of the rushing attempts and 8% of the targets. This is all going to come down to when Brooks is really full go off of his ACL injury. Here's some good news. Brooks had a similar injury to Breece Hall with his torn ACL. This was a clean cut. It was not a Javonte Williams, Gus or J.K. Dobbins type of knee injury where it was really messy, really nasty. All right, it was a clean cut. Here's some other good news. Jonathan Brooks is the clear-cut RB1 in this backfield, and that showed with the draft capital that they spent on him. Okay, so those 2 guys meet every single threshold we're looking for. But there are 7 running backs who meet 3 out of the 4 thresholds that I think we should be targeting as well. Number 3, how about Javonte Williams? Currently 24 years old. I project him to see 16.1 touches per game. He was drafted early round 2, and he has an ADP of RB31. When I look at Javonte Williams' projected touches, I currently have him leading this backfield, but it is the least secure room we will talk about today over there in Denver. I'm giving him only 46% of the rushing attempts and 11% of the targets. That's where Javonte was really good last year. He had we're projecting him to see 11% of the targets. He was heavily used in the air. Rookie quarterback Bo Nix might be looking for a check down, and Javonte could be that guy. But we need to stay tuned to Coach Speak Index on a guy like Javonte Williams. We need to know who really is the RB1 in Denver. Right now, if I had to guess, I'd say it's Javonte. The 4th running back we're targeting is Zamir White. Currently 24 years old. I project him to see 18.8 touches per game. That is the highest of any running back we have talked about today or will talk about today. The only threshold he doesn't meet is that he was drafted in round 4 of the NFL draft, pick 17, but he is being drafted well outside the top 15 at RB23. Now, why do I have him projected for 18.8 touches per game? Well, he averaged well over 22 touches per game last year when he started 4 games in place of Josh Jacobs during an injury. And just thinking about this offense in Las Vegas, they should be run-centric. They should be absolutely dominating on the ground, the Antonio Pierce, the Raider way, if you will. The 5th running back we're going to target is Tyjae Spears, 23 years old, has the draft capital, has the ADP we're looking for at RB35 off the board, but the issue is his projected touches. Okay, this backfield in Tennessee seems impossible to predict. I currently have given Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard an even share across the board. 40% rushing attempt, 8% of the target share for both of these guys. If anyone has a strong inkling that they think Pollard is going to be the guy, okay. If you think Tyjae is going to be the guy, okay. But ultimately, Tyjae definitely is priced well. He's in an offense that could be better. He meets 3 out of the 4 thresholds. If he can become the guy in Tennessee, then he'll definitely pay off that draft capital where you select him in drafts. All right, the 6th running back is Trey Benson. Trey Benson's 22 years old. He was drafted round 3, pick 2, and he has an ADP of RB36 off the board. Now, the issue is his projected touches, which sit at 12.1. Now, The good news is James Conner is on his team, and James Conner will be the starter headed into the season. However, as we all might know, James Conner has never finished a full season healthy. And if James Conner misses a stretch, Benson is talented enough where he could truly take that job, in my opinion. All right, the 7th running back we can target, Blake Corum. Currently at the age of 23, he has the NFL draft capital we're looking for. He's going off the board as RB39, but his projected touches for me sit at 10.3. Unless Kyren Williams goes down with an injury, I don't think Blake is going to be a guy that you can start. But the good news is Kyren Williams has already missed significant time with an injury as this team's leading rusher last year. He has an undersized frame that could lead to more injuries. Blake Corum could step in and be a league winner. The 8th running back, how about the other guy out of Seattle? He also meets 3 out of these 4 thresholds. He's got the age, he's a young guy, he's got the NFL draft capital, and he's being drafted as an RB42. Now, the projected touches is where this is very difficult. I've only projected him to get 10.1 touches. I don't think he's ever going to out-touch Ken Walker in a season. I don't think he has the same juice as Ken Walker. But the good news is this entire coaching staff changed for 2024. What if that leads to more favor for a guy like Zach Charbonnet? All right, how about the 9th running back in this list, which is Marshawn Lloyd, aged 21, has a draft capital, being drafted as an RB50 off the board, and I project him to see 10.2 touches per game. Now, right now, Marshawn Lloyd is dealing with, I think he was dealing with a nagging injury. He's not exactly where he needs to be in training camp, so this might not be someone that we want to draft and expect big things from, but I think this is someone second half of the season who could identify a very big role, and once he gets that role, I think he averages around 10 touches per game, because I think he gives something that to this offense that A.J. Dillon can't. A.J. Dillon can't give you Aaron Jones. Josh Jacobs isn't really an Aaron Jones type of player either. Marshawn Lloyd can give you that electric, dynamic, lightning back out of the backfield who can catch balls, who Jacobs and Aaron Jones really can't give that to you. We'll get back to the video in a second, but I gotta let you know that you do not need to wait until September to play fantasy football. We're playing fantasy football every day over here on UnderdogFantasy.com. You can get into real leagues, real tournament, real money on the line. If you haven't signed up yet, use the promo code LAND. That's gonna get you your deposit matched 50% up to $250, meaning you can get $125 free dollars from us to go out and bet with, right? Maybe you're not a guy who likes best ball, but do you like player props? Do you like pick'ems? Well, you can, whatever sport you want to bet on, you can pick the higher or lower. You can 5x, 10x, 20x your money. They got special pick'ems as well to get you going. For example, with the Olympics going on, this is a recent one they did where LeBron James, 0.5 points, the over-under. That's an easy smash on the over. That will get the ball rolling for you. So check out the pinned comment if you want to sign up and have some fun. It'll help the channel, and I bet you it'll help you, waste time until the NFL season actually gets here. Let's get back to the video. Here are some unlikely options to consider. These are guys who do not meet at least 2 or 3 of the thresholds we talked about, but I just wanted to throw them in there. Number 9, Jalen Wright, 21 years old, doesn't have the projected touches, doesn't have the draft capital, but is being drafted as an RB35. I project him to see 6.5 touches per game. Now, in my projections aren't perfect because they assume health, right? And if Raheem Mostert goes down, those touches could go way up to like 10 or 11 touches per game. So it's going to take a Raheem Mostert injury for Jalen Wright to get a real look in fantasy football. But if that happens, I promise you Wright will be the number 1 waiver wire pickup that week. And the last name we'll talk about today is Jerome Ford. Now, Jerome Ford is unfortunately over the age of 24. He's 25. He didn't have the NFL draft capital. However, I just wanted to mention him because he is going as the 40th running back off the board. He will be 25 in season. He's technically 24 right now. He'll be 25 in season. And I project him to see 14.8 touches per game. Now, this could be much, much higher depending on how quickly Nick Chubb recovers from an ACL injury. But I do think that Jerome Ford is a sneaky value in drafts. And if Nick Chubb isn't going to be ready until week 11 or something, Jerome Ford could see well over 17 touches per game, and he could be a good option. By the way, all of the research, the database from today's video can be found in the most recent article on flockfantasy.com. If you haven't signed up yet, use the promo code LAND, flockfantasy.com/land. That's going to get you a 7-day free trial, 30% off your membership, and you get to check out all of the cool tools that we have over there. Maybe if you want your team reviewed, if you want reliable rankings, good articles and databases to give you an edge over your league, go check it out, support the show. What you guys think? You like the list? Do you dislike the list? I think we've brought a lot of helpful information. Hopefully you agree. Hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys here very, very soon. All love. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.